During her recent appearance on the right-wing libertarian Fifth Column podcast, former Fox News host and current wildly successful right-wing podcaster Megyn Kelly was so unbelievably unhinged that she visibly stunned, at times, the three right-wing libertarian co-hosts. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, folks, brace yourselves. Megyn Kelly has been on a bit of a spiral towards the bottom, increasingly unhinged over time, and it's pretty bad here.
I might backtrack just a little bit because I want to talk about the alternative to the escalation here, because it seems like the way that we got to here is creeping escalation over many administrations and various abuses under Democrats, under Republicans, like violations of civil liberties that were a little questionable. And if we're escalating again now, escalation the next time around seems very likely, and further escalation seems very likely. That doesn't feel like a kind of mutually assured destruction kind of situation. It seems like just outright madness. And it does seem to me that another approach might be implementing safeguards, like trying to ensure that, like, it was that executive order that the administration put into place when they first came against lawfare and leveraging government power to achieve these various political ends or partisan ends. And had they actually worked on that, like trying to cultivate some sort of credibility that's bipartisan, like so appealing to the sensitive people on the left.
So again, perfectly reasonable proposition he's offering. And she dismisses it out of hand. And believe me, it gets substantially more unhinged.
This is, I can only operate in this way. but it does seem to me that that is not just practical. It's actually the way that we got to founding the country. The founders had to set aside their differences and come together and try and press forward.
I love it on paper. It's not going to work.
Because they're too crazy.
Yeah, they're too crazy. They're the ones who crossed the breach. They're the ones who tried to imprison our former president, and our nominated candidate for the rest of his life, and tried to bankrupt him and change the law so he could be sued civilly by that nutcase E. Jean Carroll. That's my opinion, E. Jean, and I'm entitled to it. Don't sue me.
Yeah.
Okay. So she says, yeah, on paper, I would love that principle. But no, they're crazy. We're perfect. They're evil. And we have to destroy them. Just very transparent about that, which aligns with some of the more recent unhinged takes she's had. But he continues to press her on this, continues to try to get her to understand that this certainly violates conservative principle and would seem to be ultimately setting the country up for ruin. I will also point out that, again, where I probably agree with Megyn Kelly is that I don't think that there's anything necessarily wrong with pursuing prosecutions, even if the people you're prosecuting are your political opponents. I don't think you should get out of jail free card under the Trump administration simply because you're a Democrat. Well, I'm a Democrat. I'm Trump's political opponent, which means I can commit crimes with impunity. You can't touch me because that would be political prosecution. No, not necessarily. Likewise, I don't think that Donald Trump was entitled to get out of jail free card under the Biden administration simply because he was a former president or because he was a Republican and Biden was a Democrat. The thing is, how are you going about this? And Megyn Kelly will concede throughout this podcast that she disagrees with a lot of how Donald Trump is approaching this and that he's corrupt and that he's all these things, but she doesn't really care because at the end of the day, it's war.
And come together and try and press forward.
I love it on paper. Crossed the unprecedented. Indicted before. Statement of Comey was that fact. But
saying do.
Yeah. I too. All of them.
I think when she says don't, she's saying do.
Yeah. I mean, I have a very mean lawyer, and I'm really proud of that fact. But anyway, my point is, they're the ones who crossed all of these norms, right? Like, it's amazing. Like the Wall Street Journal, of all places, tweeted out that the Trump administration's indictment of Comey was unprecedented. Oh, really? Unprecedented? In what way? The fact that he has a particular title that hasn't been indicted before? You guys, the left crossed the unprecedented bridge first.
But had
not just with Trump, but all of his top aides who actually served prison time.
Yeah, but we all everyone at this table criticized.
Yeah, you
that
guys
stuff.
aren't hypocrites.
We were on your show criticizing it for 4 years.
The unprecedented dimension here is that the president of the United States publicly and then deleted it, although he would later restate it. We look weak. we need to go after these
Pam,
people and we need to
get
punish
after
them.
it.
Pam,
Get after them.
Pam,
He still called them shifty shift.
Yeah, I mean,
shifty
I
shift.
think
Gotta go after
the, even
She was
even
gonna
the
listen to
pretense,
us,
the
get the
pretense of an independent judicial branch, like pursuing the law and actually prosecuting people on the basis of the evidence without any sort of partisan favor, even that pretense, I think, is actually important. When you obliterate the pretense and proceed directly to, look, this is how it is. You
How
fucked
do
with
you
us,
think
we
it
fuck with
wound
you.
up in the New York Times in April of 2022
I'm with you.
that Joe Biden was pressuring the DOJ to indict Trump?
Undoubtedly.
How do you think that wound
No,
up there?
listen,
So she's lying. That was not what the New York Times reported. President Biden, it was never reported that President Biden pressured the DOJ. It was reported that President Biden was complaining privately that Merrick Garland wasn't moving fast enough and that Merrick Garland was spending too much time going after his son, Hunter Biden. That was something that Joe Biden complained a lot about. But there's no reporting that he ever actually went to the DOJ and pressured Merrick Garland or the Deputy Attorney General or any high-ranking DOJ official to do anything differently. That's the difference. Megyn Kelly, this is what unfortunately she has to do, because President Biden is morally superior and was always morally superior to Donald Trump and objectively far less authoritarian, she has to say, well, there was this report in the New York Times. We actually saw Scott Jennings do this to Adam Mockler, attempt to do this to Adam Mockler about a week ago, right? It was reported in Politico and New York Times that Joe Biden didn't like the fact that Merrick Garland was going too slow. Yeah, he's entitled to his opinion. So is Donald Trump, for that matter. What they're not entitled to do, what they should not be permitted to do, because it's wildly authoritarian and unethical, is to order or actively pressure the Justice Department to pursue his political opponents. Trump did that. Biden did not. And Megyn Kelly is either too stupid or too dishonest to understand that major distinction.
Leaks.
Why was that in there?
It was problematic. It was criminal. They were trying to justify their actions in various
they were going
instances.
public with the pressure on Merrick Garland. The pretense was eviscerated.
Zero dispute.
And then what happened with Merrick
regard.
Garland? He did it.
Yeah.
So forget it. Yeah,
No, zero dispute in
You're
that
upset
regard.
about the pretense
Yeah.
being gone. Take it up with Joe Biden.
Okay.
He crossed all these norms, and not only did they indict Trump twice through his federal special prosecutor, but the feds cooperated with both the New York and the Georgia prosecutions. They were involved in both of them. These guys were determined
pretending
to put
to stay
Donald,
out of it.
Yeah, to put Donald.
Yeah, she needs to substantiate that claim, because that's a MAGA conspiracy theory that, the federal government was working behind the scenes to help Alvin Bragg and Fonnie Willis. I have seen no evidence to corroborate that, so I wish you would present some evidence.
Trump in jail. They didn't care if he spent every last day behind bars and to bankrupt him and to humiliate him with the E. Jean Carroll thing. They couldn't have cared less. And not just him, but Roger Stone, who he had the same charges that James Comey did. The FBI showed up at his house at 6 a.m. to arrest him. Guess what? The New York Times was there. CNN was there on the Roger Stone. The FBI came at 6. CNN was there at 6:04. Oh, we just got lucky. We didn't, just like we got lucky with the Mar-a-Lago raid. Geez, sometimes you just have a sixth sense for it. But James Comey, have you seen a perp walk of him? Did the FBI raid his house
Comey surrendered himself.
and humiliate him? So, I mean, he should be thankful
Not
that
yet.
we're not doing to him exactly what they did to Trump and Trump's emissaries. Also, Peter Navarro, also Steve Bannon, who
They defied congressional subpoenas. They refused to testify before Congress. They claimed executive privilege, but by that point, President Biden was in charge, and President Biden says, no, I'm not honoring that executive privilege. You don't have executive privilege. You need to comply. They refused to work with Congress, period. They gave Congress nothing. And so as a consequence, ultimately, the Justice Department successfully convicted them of contempt of Congress, and they went to jail.
allegedly committed the same crime that Merrick Garland committed, contempt of Congress. But guess who didn't get prosecuted? Guess who didn't sit in jail? Merrick Garland, because he runs the DOJ.
Sorry, it's night and day difference. So there was an attempt to hold Merrick Garland in contempt of Congress because he wouldn't provide audio of President Biden's interview with Special Counsel Robert Hur. But the Justice Department, two things. Number one, the Justice Department did provide the full transcript. They provided all sorts of material. They just refused to provide the audio. So there was a good faith attempt to honor what Republicans in Congress were asking for, unlike Navarro, unlike Steve Bannon. Number one, so it's a major distinction. Number two, President Biden claimed executive privilege, and he was the sitting president of the United States, and there was no one to overrule that executive privilege. And the Republicans could have gone to court to get President Biden's claim of executive privilege overturned, but they never did. So I'm sorry. Again, either too stupid or I think just more dishonest. I don't think Megyn Kelly's really stupid. I think she's dishonest because she knows the facts sit squarely against her. These are meaningful important distinctions between the two examples that she's providing. But she has to conflate these issues because she knows Trump and MAGA are morally inferior to the elected Democratic Party.
Sorry, but it's war right now. It's war, not in the ideally firing sense. I mean, we have had our people get shot, but these are policy wars and a war for the soul of the country. And I firmly believe
Look at how they're looking at her.
now, and I'm pretty moderate in my politics, that if we don't fight fire with fire, we'll lose.
But that's not moderate, right? That is every election is on a war footing. And there's an equal number of people who, say they started it first, not necessarily Megyn Kelly.
But this is a fact that the Dems fight. Like, you can't argue this fact.
We can and we win because we're right and you're wrong. No, you guys. Donald Trump was the one who campaigned on jailing his political opponents. Hillary Clinton never did that. Obama never did that. Biden never did that. Kamala Harris never did that. And he tried to get it done. It's just that his DOJ in his first term refused to go along with it because they didn't have the goods to actually prosecute these people.
You can say they
Who was indicted by a Republican president that was running for president on the other side?
It wouldn't be necessarily the specific, a perfectly matching indictment.
Mhm.
But the they started at first could be lawfare, could be crazy. You talked about crazy people. Marjorie Taylor Greene is not the most sane member of Congress. It's not hard to point and look at Republicans and see some crazy out there. And so they get as hepped up, right? They're ready to then go to war next time they win. So every presidential election is this momentous, this side's going to go to war against this side. I don't see how that's ever going to lead to any kind of de-escalation in a way that's favorable to those of us who don't have a we necessarily.
Because they have to feel that there's risk involved to them if they.
Donald Trump was the one who started this with, again, actively campaigning on his political opponents. President Biden's DOJ bent over backwards to try to avoid prosecuting him, and Trump forced his hand. Trump refused to turn over the classified documents, for example, and the classified documents that Trump did turn over, the few of them he wasn't prosecuted for having in the first place. But he obstructed justice. He dicked around with the FBI and the National Archives, and that's ultimately what happened. But again, do you see how stunned they are? Where it's like, no, it's war. Just crush them. Just crush them. Do and say whatever you have to. It really is shocking. And you can tell that these are people who respect Megyn Kelly. They like Megyn Kelly, but they are stunned at how absolutely insane Megyn Kelly sounds here. And I want to just give you, again, one taste of this, some more pushback, in which Megyn Kelly admit, I don't like, Trump is corrupt and he's a narcissist. So again, she's not stupid. She just doesn't care because it's all about owning the libs.
What is it for you when you look at what Trump has been doing in this term, which is a much more aggressive term than the first term, where you say, this I'm a little uneasy about, or it could go pear-shaped, or it is going pear-shaped now, and I'm like upset about the president's
There have been a couple
actions.
things, like if I could take out my eraser and undo some of the Trump behaviors, like I'm not thrilled at what he's doing to the law firms.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't think it's illegal, but I don't love it.
Yeah.
I don't love some of the Intel deal. That feels a little Soviet,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Don't love that.
Thank you, Megyn.
Don't love
Libertarians say thank you.
don't love some of the money making ventures, for the Trump family.
Don't destroy my Trump coin value right now.
But listen, I
Literally opened a Trump hotel in Riyadh this week.
Is that true?
Yeah.
but
Did I
can I
miss
just
that?
say,
Like no one cares.
I do have a tough time getting too worked up about it, given Hunter Biden. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They didn't care. They let their guy grift all the way into the White House, and while he was there, so I'm really.
So again, this is what I'm saying, either incredibly stupid or incredibly dishonest. And maybe she's just deluded herself. Hunter Biden wasn't the president, you fucking moron. He just wasn't. Your guy is objectively worse. He's corrupt not only in terms of scale and dollar amount, but the fact that he's actually in power. Hunter Biden was never president of the United States. He didn't even have a position in the Biden White House. There's no comparison here. If you took the most maximally, the most generous maximal interpretation that MAGA has over Hunter Biden, it is literally a fraction of a rounding error. If you talk about the financial corruption of the Trump family in his first and second term, we're talking about billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars versus millions of dollars by the sitting president's son. And the billions of dollars that we just compared it to are of the sitting president. So it's just objectively worse. But I have a hard time getting really upset about this murder because this person jaywalked, this person shoplifted. How can I get upset about this other person murdering? It's an incredibly stupid position to have. It demonstrates how deeply, deeply psychotic she has become. She's had a psychotic break from reality. And it's interesting that, again, she seems to have stunned her co-hosts so utterly. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.